shadow on the wall that looks like a man. Lord, that lamp just moved on that stand. I got movement in the cellars, I got footsteps in the hall. There's no time to waste, I better make some calls. I gotta get ready, make everything right, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. This old house has a long history. It should be real good for activity. And we got the house wired for sound and got motion alarm setting all around. Got a box full of batteries ready to go, and everyone's itching to start this show. Got our logo tees, driving black SUVs, and that one bald guy with a slick goatee. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is your big brother Mike calling. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. That's right. Go get 'em, boys.
And welcome everybody to Pema TV.
Welcome everybody to Friday night, June 7th, 2013.
Yep.
Sorry, June.
Yeah, I'm almost the double quad.
He's a baby.
Baby Huey. We do want to remind everybody you can come out and see us in Shreveport, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd.
The weirder side of Shreveport.
It's actually a municipality-sponsored festival, which is unique. So come on and join us. Be sure and hit up their website. We're also on the event page. There's also several events out there on Facebook for it. Got links to everything you need.
Yeah, so. Dakota Lawrence is doing a gallery. Deanna Kelly Saeed, they've got a ufologist and trolleys and all kinds of craziness going on.
Yeah, lions and tigers and bears, oh my.
It should be fun though.
It'd be a lot of fun.
Because where we were at the meeting, it was only like 6 blocks from the waterfront.
Yeah. And if you come down there, they do have some day rates. They've got a VIP ticket that covers everything for all 3 days. It's still the best part of it. Come join us. But tonight, we are joined by
the lovely, the talented, the vivacious Martha Hazard-Decker. Hi, Martha.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm wonderful.
She sounds like she's trying to convince us of that at the moment.
It is getting hot.
You might be right. And I'm getting it's a little in and out, so if I hesitate when I answer, it's because of that.
Oh, that's okay. How have you been? The last time we actually saw you was in Waxahachie, Texas.
That's right. And I think from there I went to the one in Granbury. I think that was last month, I think that one was. I went, Rita Louise and I went to that one together.
I've heard it was a good time down there.
It is. It only costs like $5 for people to get into that one. So you always get a lot of people. She only had 3 speakers this year, but you get a wide variety of people, and you actually get a lot of, local people that will come in for that price to see what's going on. Of course, that was right after the hurricane, right after the tornado went through Grand Prairie. It was the same week, I think.
Yeah, I think it was a week
Yeah,
later.
it was like 3 or 4 days later after the tornado.
Yeah, we didn't see any damage. It was on a different, like it's on the other side of the lake. And then there was another one in Tyler. It was the first time that they had done one in Tyler this year, too. And I think that one went off fairly well, too. I was speaking at that one. George Jones, who has the Tours of Tyler, I believe they're called, put that one on. Yeah, he put that one on and had a full day of speakers, and he included lunch, he included a breakfast, and he even had, after hours. They had 4 or 5 locations, and everybody could just pick one of the locations to go to, and they were doing, I think, 4-hour investigation.
Well, Martha, some of our viewers, they live so far around the world, they may have never heard of Martha Hazard Deckard. How did you get started in this lovely little thing we call the paranormal?
As a child, I had some unexplained and still unexplained experiences. The earliest goes back to probably about 4 years old. I had them off and on growing up, and I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, so I didn't have any mentors or anybody to really, talk to about it, especially back in the old days, back in the 60s and early 70s, and I moved to Texas, and probably about 99, I started investigating. That was my relaxation from my day job. I would pretty much go up to Jefferson. I think I've stayed in every hotel or every room in the Jefferson Hotel. I used to have a lot of experiences there, so I got my start there. I got my start with an investigation down at the Murders Plantation. That was actually the first place I went to where, it was kind of a semi-investigation. It's nothing like I do today, but that really got me going. And then when I retired from law enforcement in '07, I actually founded a group.
And that would be?
East Texas Paranormal.
Right on. And you guys have done some pretty interesting investigations as your group too, correct?
I think we have. I think we have. Having the name East Texas Paranormal, anybody in East Texas who looks up a paranormal group because they have questions or they think they may have activity seems to find us because East Texas Paranormal, simple search word that I didn't even think about when we came up with that name because we ran around with different names before we really settled on that one. So most of them, or a good majority of them, turned out to really not be paranormal, but they would make great books or movies that are absolutely fascinating. And we also assist, we're affiliated with the paranormal clergy with Father Bob Bailey, and we're also affiliated with a group with Bishop James Long. So we'll take cases that might be possible serious cases,
right.
And do those for that group, and we'll go in and we do interviews and so on, and then get back with any evidence we may get just during our interview process and go from there. So we've had some really, plus the ones that call us, some really, really interesting cases.
And you specifically kind of specialize in the whole photography aspect of it too, don't you?
Well, yeah, I used to be a professional photographer, and I'm working back into doing that again. Straight out of high school, I went to work as a professional photographer, and it's like the year I was 18 and 19. I was still in Memphis, and I was shooting all the rock concerts that came through Memphis for Mid-South Productions, and that was everything from David Bowie to Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa even rode in my car because that was the first concert from Mid-South Productions, and they left him at the Coliseum or the Convention Center. Everybody went to the bar from there except for him and his bodyguard, and I had the nicest car at the time, so he rode with me.
Oh, no.
He just drove off and left him. And I had, let's see, that was 72. I had a 69 Ford Thunderbird that was the big engine, the 4-barrel, carbureted, dual exhaust. I had the suicide doors. That was the last year they did them with the suicide doors.
Nice.
So that wasn't bad for an 18-year-old.
Oh no. Heck, that wouldn't have been bad when I was 18.
Well, I know. I wanted a VW bus, but folks wouldn't co-sign for it. So I settled for the Thunderbird.
Yeah, there you go. What's the one thing in everything that you guys have done? And in fact, this just came from one of our guests in the chat room. They wanted to know who has been your biggest mentor in the paranormal field, and what was the biggest piece of advice, best piece of advice they gave you?
Probably I've had several mentors, and that wasn't really. Well, I had several growing up that I guess you could almost call them mentors because I read everything I could on them, and that would have been like Edgar Casey, and of course Lorraine Moore, the Warrens, back in the 60s and the 70s, Uri Geller, I read everything I could on them because that was about all I could do, and then through the years I've met some people who are now associated with my group and several other people that have just helped me tremendously. For example, Kat Lang, who's over in Washington. I can call her. She's a wonderful person who has given me so much information on things. We've got Maria Elena Santos in our group. She's down in Houston. She's in our group. I can call her. She's been around for a while. There's a bunch of people who have been around that I've been able to, connect with and pick their brains. David Roundtree. There's just a bunch of them that, if somebody has experience and I get to know them, I like to pick brains, ask questions, and just suck up as much, information as I can.
Well, would you agree with the old saying that you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason?
Yeah, sometimes I have more than 1 mouth. It just depends. Sometimes I'm talking from
Martha,
everywhere.
you said it. You said it. I didn't.
That's why I like Martha.
Yeah, but I listen. And, in law enforcement, I was a negotiator, so I learned to listen. And so I can sit there for a long time and just listen, especially on an investigation. Or one of the things that we specialize in, of course, is our interviews, even because on our group, a lot of us are either current or former law enforcement. So we come at a lot of our interviews totally different than your normal citizen who doesn't have that background. I've got over 20 years of investigative background behind me, and so do a lot of the others, where everybody's like 5 to 10 years. Mine started with journalism, and went from journalism into law enforcement, and I'm still in the position I'm in today. It's the same way. We have a couple people on our team who were, one worked for the federal government. She worked for the state. She was with MUFON. So she has a bunch of years of investigation. And, one of the things we do is you learn to sit there and listen, because if you sit there and there's open space when you're interviewing someone, that's great, because they're going to start filling it with stuff.
One thing that Kim and I, in the last couple of years that we've been doing the show, and we've talked to a lot of groups that have been out there, one of the things that they've run into, and I was curious if you've run into it here in East Texas, where they'll actually go and do an interview with a family or an individual, and they'll even go back and do a follow-up interview. They'll do everything right. The stories always match. Yada yada yada. They go back for that last call just to confirm, that you're okay. We're going to be here this Friday at 8:30, and we'll be there. And where are you guys going, or however you're doing it. They'll call for that confirmation, and the last thing that people will say is, "Oh, by the way, is the film crew coming with y'all too?"
Oh, no, we haven't had that yet. But when we interview people, like when they give us a call, I talk to them for a little while on the phone, get some basic information, and then I tell them that they need to email us with all the information and their contact information. So I have that on paper, and I can keep track of it. And then at that point, we'll call back and we'll set up an interview date possibly, or I may have some more questions based on the information they give us. But if they don't give us, sometimes we'll get stuff that they just send us like a text message and with no contact, and we're not going to respond to that. They need to go with our protocol. And but they do want to be on TV or so. So the first question we ask people is, do they watch the paranormal shows? Because we've been, like I said, we get a lot of calls, and then we're able to come up with plausible explanations of what's happening. And I have found that a lot of people, just your general public, who watch all the shows, and they don't really know anything about the paranormal. They just watch the shows. Any little thing in the house, they immediately jump to it's paranormal, or they jump to it's a demon. And so we educate. We try, we don't just say, oh, it's not this or that. We'll actually spend time to educate them, and it helps with them at ease too, because they really don't know. But we watch for stuff that finds, and it's not just people. It could be a business, it could be a B&B. They want to get this group to say there's something there, so they can in turn, send something out to the TV shows, or, East Texas Paranormal, declared us a haunted location. So we watch for that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were up in Gettysburg, there at the Jenny Wade House, there's a team up there that apparently spends a lot of time there who actually wrote them a certificate certifying them as a haunted location.
And of course, Martha, that's valuable.
And how do you certify anybody haunted,
Thank you.
Exactly.
You can't. We don't even really know what haunted is if you get right down to it.
Well, I mean, they had a very cool collection of pictures in the basement of dust and bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know, that's it. I mean, when it comes right down to it, technically, we know there's something there, but we really don't know. I mean, we've come up with a definition, but we really don't know what it is. We don't really know how it happens, and we don't really know where it comes from.
Right.
That's why, it's paranormal, abnormal, whatever you want, paranormal, however you want to say it. Is it haunted? I don't know. Is it something from the past? Who knows? Is it another universe? We can kind of keep an open mind, because you really don't know. You just know there's something there, and we go with, like, today's definitions of things. But it's like when somebody puts a color chart for boards, and, green means this, red means that, and it's like, finally, I think one day I try not to reply to things like that. Mm-hmm. But, it's finally like, who met the king or queen orb that they sat down and the king or queen told them, when I'm this color, it's because I'm this. How did somebody come up with a chart? How do they know? What orb told them what their colors mean?
Right. What, in all the years that you've had these experiences, what's the craziest thing you've either experienced yourself or seen? Well, what is there one thing that just sticks out in your mind that
Well, there's a couple of things that happened to me as a teenager, and then when I first moved to Dallas when I was 19, I had two incidents. Well, I had several incidents that just really, I don't know to this day what they were. One was when I was in high school, and I had a friend, and things would happen to both of us. And back then, when we were like 16, 17, we used to do the Ouija board sometimes. But it's like we were sensitive to some stuff to pick up. It's like now I can go into a room a lot of times, and I can't tell you what it is, but I might be able to say there's something here, and then I can tell when it's gone. I just pick up on, feelings like that. But we would back off on things because we didn't know. We knew we didn't know. We didn't have anybody to talk to. But I used to love going into my bedroom when I was in high school. It was just a safe place. I'd sit in there and I'd read and feel comfortable. One day I went to step into the bedroom. I couldn't step past the door. There was like this really heavy, not good feeling presence or something in my room. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea where it came from, but I could not go in there, and I slept downstairs on the couch for 2 weeks without my parents knowing about it, because I forced myself into the room, go to bed kind of thing as a teenager. As soon as they were in bed, I was downstairs. And then a couple weeks later, I had a phone call from somebody I went to school with that I never saw at school, and I think I had gone out with him once, and there's a whole other story with that and where we went. But he called and asked me what my middle name was, because he'd spent a couple of days auto-writing my whole name, first, middle, last, pages and pages of it, which, I thought was kind of weird. And so I told him about the bedroom. And he said, well, I think I know what it might be or something, because I've got a friend that can take care of it, and within a couple hours it was gone. And then he called back to ask how it was. And feeling me, I didn't even ask him. He just called to see if it was okay now. And I didn't ask him what the heck it was. I would love to go back and ask him, what did you do, or what happened? Because I don't know. And then there was another time here in Dallas when I first moved here, before I got into my apartment. I was staying at my parents' and in a room that had twin beds, and one bed was facing the foot of it was at the door to the hall. And only two nights in a row, I watched this real dark shadow. I hate to call it necessarily a shadow figure, but this very dark outline. It had substance to it. Walk into the room, and it had on, the best description was like a druid robe, and then the face was darker, where there would be a face. Walked into the room, sat down on the edge of the bed, and faced out into the hall. This was 2 nights in a row I watched this. It didn't scare me. I didn't know what it was, but I felt like it was there to protect for some reason. But those are two of my weird things that weren't group related.
And what's with the experience that you've had, Martha? With the experience that you've had over the last couple of years, what's the best advice you could give somebody just starting into investigating?
If they're just starting into investigating, the best thing they can do is beware of people that may, when someone calls you with something, don't automatically believe what they're telling you. You keep an open mind. Don't go over there assuming, it's true. And don't necessarily go there and assume that they're making it up, but just keep an open mind when you go over there. Ask a lot of questions. I have a real detailed questionnaire where you ask everything from, are you on drugs, to have you been arrested, are you, do you have any mental problems? Just because someone's schizophrenic or bipolar doesn't mean that there's not something going on. But a lot of this stuff helps you to get the whole picture. And there's some cases, because you have to be aware when you go in, if somebody is kind of messed up mentally, and you go in, just whip in, do an investigation, whip out, and that's the end of it. If you were to make them worse, you could end up being sued. So they need to kind of keep vicarious liability in mind and be responsible. There's been a few times that I've told people they need to go get a mental evaluation, physical evaluation before we can do an investigation, just to be on the safe side. We don't always do that with everybody. But probably the most important thing is if you're going to go for an interview, don't go alone. Never go alone. Always have somebody with you. If you're going into somebody's house, you don't know who that person is. And you don't know what's going on there. So for your safety and your protection, don't go alone. Sometimes we'll meet people out in public somewhere, in a park or something. We don't even go to their house if there's a potentially serious case going on, because if there's a problem, it'll come with them.
Right. Right.
So, Martha, what do you think about the team in Houston that's got the van that says "Rent a Ghost Hunter"?
Can you repeat? Can you repeat it again? I that was cutting out for me.
The other day, we had that one picture posted all over the place about the group in Houston who's charging for investigations.
Oh, okay. What do I that? Well,
Yeah.
well, people act like the paranormal community is something new. It's not. It is a commodity. There's been movies and books written for years and years. You got movies written, books written in the 1800s that fall under our genre and stuff. But the main thing is buyer beware. Do your due diligence. Would I call them? No. Because of them, we don't charge a fee. We would never charge a fee. Now, if it was a long distance for us to go, and maybe we had to do overnight, depending on what's going on, we may cover it ourselves. We may not be able to. Someone wants us to go far away. We just don't have all the money to do that all the time. I bought. Some of us have we spent, $1,000, a couple $1,000 a piece individually on what we have. But I sure, in fact, when I talk to potential clients and they ask about people that I call so-and-so, I call so-and-so what they cost, they're going to charge, I kind of steer them away from people that charge, because as far as I know, I haven't really, not that they're all bad, but I haven't found one yet that does a good job, does the follow-up, does aftercare. There's one lady we were working with up in Henderson, and she had some group from Tennessee come out that guaranteed to remove anything in the house. Oh. And it's like there is no guarantee. I've had people that we've worked with that someone said their service is free, but when they get there, they've used, when they, use oil, use water, use different things, and then they demand money for that stuff. We did the service free, but you have to pay for this, almost like robbery on a couple of them.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I just tell them. I had one that I tried to find out who the people were. When I went to her, this lady, there was nothing paranormal going on. She wanted to get out of a lease, so she was trying to make it be that way. And because there was a 11-year-old child involved, we went over there. It was just around the corner from us, more or less, on the other side of the lake. So two of us went over there and talked to her, and we went over and did an investigation, and it was more just for their peace of mind kind of thing. But there was nothing going on. She wanted out of her lease, plain and simple. But when we went over there, she showed me a paper where she found somebody somewhere that sent her this little kit. You do this oil, you say this prayer, you do this, you take your Bible, you write something on this paper, fold it up, stick it under your pillow. The first thing you do when you get up the next morning is put it in this box and mail it to me with $29.95, and I'll take care of it.
Really?
I'm serious. And then she had another one. The ones I tried to find out who they were because I wanted to report them to police.
Right.
That one was just a scam. But there were two guys that came over. She didn't know, and I don't know where she got them from, but I tried to find out because she said they came over. They told her not to have us come over. They would come over for free. They came over. They did the same thing. They did their so-called cleansing and, put oil here and there and did all this stuff. And then when they got into her bedroom, they told her she needed to take her clothes off so that they could cleanse her. And they said if your daughter had been 12, we would have, told you she needs to get naked too. Well, she didn't do that. And so then when they went to leave, they demanded money as well for their the products they used. And she actually promised to pay them like $25 or something, but they wanted $250. But they're telling her to get naked. There's something wrong with these guys, and they wanted this child to do the same thing. I wanted to know who they were because I wanted to report them.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
she would never tell me.
Wow. See, in this, I have words that I use when I think about people like that. But bless their heart,
In a southern way.
in a very, very, so southern, it's almost Mexican way. Bless their heart. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that makes us all, and I get on to the TV shows, especially the Deep South one, because that, bless his heart, he's got his little spirit staff, but the way they act, he might as well have an empty can of PBR floating around off of it. You know what I mean?
I know.
Everybody, it doesn't necessarily ruin it, and I know it's just for entertainment, but there's a lot of people that, and I know you know this, that think it's real, and they can't make that line. They don't know that line.
Well, that's it. They think it's real, and a lot of times the people in the paranormal field forget that the general public doesn't have a clue. They would expect to pay for a service because they pay for the plumber, they pay for the electrician, they pay for everything. So they ask. They ask me all the time, and I tell them there's no charge. But they don't really know because they've never called somebody to come help them. So they really don't know what to do as far as their due diligence to ask. So we just try to educate as much as we can.
Yeah. And that's the one thing, too. I was going to ask you, there has been, and I'm not quite sure why, but in the last, 2 weeks on Facebook, it's like every crappy, pixelated with a red circle and arrows on it picture that has ever been taken has been posted on Facebook in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, where do you get those cameras? My camera doesn't make circles or arrows.
I mean, I'd love to know where that function is on my camera. But what can you being a photographer?
Are you talking about the pictures that have been posted, like where they were saying that they were getting heat signatures, hot and cold with their pictures with some software or something?
Oh, there's.
Or is that a different one?
There's been that on several of the boards, specifically the NPS board, the National Paranormal Society that Eric Hudson started.
Yeah. Right.
There have been some pictures posted on there that are, I mean, it's like looking at Pac-Man. It's so pixelated.
Yeah, I know, and it's just almost impossible to get into that org argument and everything with people and about seeing faces. You can look at any pattern long enough and you start seeing faces. Sometimes there are. Sometimes I have some things that are questionable, but it's just trying to explain that, how so many things can cause the light anomalies and stuff in there, and just, but it's people, they're just so bent on their orbs, their spirits, this one has a face inside of it.
Oh, yeah.
And, or the circle, look at this, and what I'd like to do is, what I told some is, if I have a picture and I have a question about it, because it looks like there's something there, I want to go back to that location, and usually I can, and see what was there. Is there some kind of discoloration in the wall, on the floor, on a piece of furniture? What is it? And again, it's also hard when people post their pictures when you don't know that person.
Right.
necessarily trust that it's a real undoctored photograph.
Well, of course it's got a face in it. It's a June bug. Hello?
Yeah.
They got faces.
Well, could you?
Well, I can tell you, I took some pictures at the Myrtle, and when I came back, my husband, of course that was, probably a 3 megapixel camera back then, because that was in '99. So you just couldn't do much with the pixelation on it because of that. But I can remember he'd sit down and pull those pictures up for weeks. He'd come by and he'd look at those pictures and shake his head and walk away. Because plain as day, I had a picture of myself standing in front of the mirror at the Martles that no matter how often they put the mirror inside the old frame, it turns into looking like an old mirror. I was standing in front of it, and then the Tammy, who's with our bridge, she was standing in front of it. So we had a picture with each of us, and each picture had, plain as day, that you didn't have to circle, didn't have to enlarge, faces looking at us. One that fit the description of Chloe the slave, and the other one, the voodoo priestess. I mean, they were just amazing. And it's like, where did those come from? Do they have something? It's like, do they have something behind that mirror that does that? I mean, you could just see it. And because my husband didn't know anything about the background of the Myrtles, but you could see the picture of because they were both, hung and thrown in the river, and the voodoo priestess, you got this picture of this woman, very definitely African American, and she's got a rope around her neck. She has this protruded tongue out of her mouth, like she's been hung. The detail was amazing in it. And then the one that would have been a Chloe, she had the bandana, on that they used to wear, had it canted, so it was covering her ear. And like they described the way she wore it and stuff, and it's like, those I can't explain at all. Of course, there was some other stuff going on when we were there too, but those were pretty wild. And then they had this cat there that they would get pictures of it, and they take pictures with a cat in it, and the cat would appear as just like a spark of light or something. And in my picture, the cat looks like a dead cat. It has mottled fur on it. You can see the ribs like it's been dead for a while, and the fur's come away, falling away, and you have the ribs. That's what my cat. It was a big old fat fluffy cat.
Well, what's let's say a junior investigator or somebody just starting out, and they purchase a camera. What do you have a few useful suggestions that you could give people as far as at least taking the photographs? I know photographs are a great way to take a picture of a certain type of setup. They're a great way to get like a baseline for how rooms are laid out, where furniture is, where windows are. I think everybody kind of knows that, but when it comes to taking shots during an investigation, do you have some advice for people just getting started so maybe they won't post really crappy pictures that nobody can see anything in?
First of all,
well, one thing they can do that's a great experiment if they're just starting out, excuse me, and they may not have a lot of camera skills, because I did this with my group when we first started out. Of course, the camera has a lot to do with it, and certain cameras you're going to get a lot more orbs in them than other cameras possibly, but you take multiple pictures. You take like at least 3 of something, so you have your before and after, so that if there's something going on, you can show how it was. But one of the good experiments they could do to see what we talk about as far as, bugs and dirt and moisture and everything is, if nothing else, go outside where it's really dark and take their camera and put it up to their face like they're going to take a picture, but put their face to the one of the sides and look out in front of the camera as they flash. And when they flash, they're going to see a bazillion things that are being reflected that's in the air, that who knows what all it is, that you cannot see with your eye. But that will give you a really good idea of how much stuff is out there that you're taking pictures of and it's reflecting from your camera. So, watch that. Be wary if they're using your regular automatic camera where it's a rangefinder type lens. Watch where your hands are, watch where your hair are, watch where the strap is. Take pictures that, different, do them on automatic, do them on manual. Do it, it's not, do it at different settings. I'm starting to take my 35 millimeter back with me because I never got orbs with 35 millimeter. That was something that I think came about pretty much with the age of digital.
Correct.
And, and with the fewer megapixels, it's like as I had the camera, the more orbs I would get. But as the megapixels increase and increase, I don't get as many as I used to. But if you're somewhere, if you're jumping around some old place, you're bringing up all kinds of dust, pollen, and who knows what all, and it's in the air and you can't see it, and it's going to be there. It's like if they would take a video, if they're doing a video and they watch it on the screen, they're going to see all kinds of stuff zooming past, if they're doing it, and zooming past the lens, and those aren't orbs. That's just whatever's in the air that they can't see, bugs, even dust.
Well, even fog you can see, but when you take a picture of it, it becomes a billion orbs.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing is use a tripod, because on so many of those pictures that I see posted are blurry. You cannot tell anything from a blurry picture. Some of them, it's the blur that makes the light streak, because they just that slight movement to the side or up or down is going to streak that light. And it may not seem that it's that, blurry to them necessarily, but it's just enough to do it. So use a tripod on some of your stuff.
Or even, or at the very least, a monopod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works too. Or at least brace yourself on something.
Yeah. I mean, people just, and once again, bless their hearts. Maybe not in a southern way, but bless their hearts. They're just trying to share something that they think they've discovered.
Right, and they don't know.
And they don't know, and they go to where they think they can find an answer, which is Facebook. And yeah, it's the same way I feel about Facebook. And they get torn apart, get torn to shreds. They post a picture, and the next thing you know, there's 30 comments that say you're an idiot.
I know, and they don't know. They're trying to learn. And if I respond, I try to do it in a respectful way and maybe a helpful way. But some of them, I know people just get downright ugly. The best thing that somebody could do is read the book on photography. Troy Taylor has some great books on that. He has some really good ones to read. He's so prolific that you can find books on everything. He's got a book now. It's an older book. It was written in probably, when was this one written? He wrote it in '05, but it's called Ghosts on Film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the history, mystery, and how-to of spirit photography. His book, that's a really good book to read to learn about that. Then there's other ones. There's a book by a guy named Craig Celestia, Celesha, called Strange Frequencies, and it's like a field guide on using all different types of equipment, from cameras to your recorders, the whole history. Just like David Roundtree has this paranormal technology that has a lot of really, really good information. Mm-hmm. It's just that's one of the best things they can do is read. Just read it as much as you can find.
And document. Please don't be afraid to write things down somewhere. No, write it down. There's good books you can get that tell you how to do investigation. Just the same way. Troy Taylor does it from his Ghost Hunters book. There's another one called Ghost Hunters Bible by Trent Brandon. So, there's a bunch of different ones out there by different people that just give you, and you just kind of pull from everything. Get some stuff that you think would help
helps to do all that. I have a really good book by Fiona Broom that's on cemetery, and what's fascinating about it is it shows you all the different things that you see on the cemetery on the headstones and stuff, and it explains what they are, the time period. And sorry about the dog. Our 100-pound dog works outside, but she has to walk. But, you know, it's just really. But Troy Taylor, I hate to keep bringing up Troy, but he's just a really good one. He's got prolific. Then Fiona Broom's book is called Ghost Hunting with Haunted Cemeteries.
Well, you know, and that's one thing we try to tell people too. If you go out in the springtime, early summer, guess what? You're going to run a lot of bugs and a lot of pollen.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to record audio outside with just a voice recorder, you're already losing.
Exactly.
You may find some things, but you're going to have to dig through so much. And see, that's something else that I try to, when people ask me, the less that you touch something, as a matter of fact, if you have to modify or change something to make it into something, then it's not there to begin with.
Right.
You know, the
well,
one,
I know. Right. It's like, I know with the EVPs, because there's a lot of stuff I'll pick up that there's something there, but you don't know what it is. We don't modify it. We just leave it.
Yeah. So
we went for years and years without any EVPs because wouldn't use any of them because they didn't jump out at us. It's only been in the last couple of years that we've started picking up just at a few places things that come across almost so clear. It's like us talking right now.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, we didn't hear it at the time. We did one recently. We did an investigation, and two of our investigators have picked up stuff. And one, it was like someone talking gibberish, like if you just goof around and it's like you're just saying like, you know, just saying a bunch of blah, 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 da, 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 or something. But it sounds like you're standing right there with their mouth in the mic saying this. And we were all in the room. There was nobody there that was like that said that.
Right.
You know, we didn't recognize the voice, and I was there, and, you know, that wasn't said.
Yeah.
Well, right now you've got so many people cemetery hopping, but they don't realize how close the road is, and oh, what is that growl when it could be, you know, the car or
A squirrel.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you know, and that's it. And they don't go investigate. That's the one thing we do if we're doing an investigation is anything that we hear or pick up there, we go try to find out what it is.
Right.
You know, I hear, it's like I was in a lodge, and I stepped into this one area, and I had footsteps step to the right of me, but down a hallway a little bit. And old buildings, you can walk in a totally different area, and it will creak in a different area. And so I'm over there, you know, someone comes around, what are you doing? Because I'm like jumping up and down and pushing here, pushing there, and all these floorboards, trying to recreate that sound to see, you know, did I do that?
We've done that.
And that's real important to do that.
Yeah.
We had one house that the apartment that, well, the one where the people wanted to move out of the apartment, but her daughter wouldn't stay in her room, and said all these things were happening. Every time they turned on the light, you know, in the bedroom, the light would blow. We go in there. Mom's room is next to hers. She's got a big old TV next, you know, up against the wall. The power panel is in another bedroom in this girl's room. Well, there's all this, you know, there's all this high EMF coming from that. And when that TV is on, there's another high amount coming from that TV that's coming through the wall. And the light, she was probably, it was an old apartment. And the light bulb was probably of a higher wattage than what was supposed to be in there. Right. And the whole thing was just hanging from the ceiling like you would see in some, you know, horror movie or something, maybe just an exposed bulb. But the wires were even hanging out. And it's like, you've got bad wiring here. That's what that is. You're putting in the light that's too bright. You know, the demons aren't blowing out the light bulb. You are.
Right.
You know, and then we showed them, And we'll do a walkthrough a lot of times when we do the first interview. If we think we're coming back, we may just do a general walkthrough, take some base readings, and if we find something like that, high EMF or something, we try to figure out while they're there what could cause it. I was in another house, and this one area that she feels like she gets all kinds of stuff going on. Well, it's next to her AC heat unit. And when it comes on, it's kicking out, an older house too, it's kicking out all these high readings. And, so look, this is probably what's doing it. I mean, some people, could say it's what's causing it, but, this is a possible cause for that feeling right here. So we try to find other things that could cause it, and, a lot of times it makes them feel better because, well, it could be that. And, and the same thing with us, it could be. A lot of times we find, really good plausible reasons for things to happen because we can recreate it.
Yeah, and I think that does give people a much better sense of, they don't think it's quite as abnormal when you can start, like you said, when you can not necessarily debunk, but explain how what they think is a phenomena really isn't. It's just, like you said, it's bad wiring, it's high EMF, it's environmental, it's black mold, it's a lot of things that can be.
It's air in the pipes. It's not someone trying to bang through the wall.
Satan is not coming out of your toilet. It is okay.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Well, I had a lady call us once, and she saw demons everywhere. But she said it was only when she took pictures with her phone. So my thing is, well, can you send me those pictures? And she was one that we would not go to her house unless she had a medical and mental exam, and she had insurance coverage, so that was not a problem. And I just felt like there was more to it. I looked at the pictures, and there were pictures of her. But she had demons on the walls, on her refrigerator. They were doing all kinds of nasty things to kids and all this sort of stuff. And you look at the pictures of the sheets between the wrinkles and the shadowing and everything, you could kind of see where someone could come up with that because I said, but it's just shadow. It's not anything. Right. It's just, and she did go get her exam. She had a lot of stuff that was going on. I found out later from when I told her she needed to do that for her daughter. The daughter got a hold of us and asked us to be, easy on her and everything. Because kids thought it was going a whole bunch of stuff happening, and they've been trying to get her to go to the doctor. Well, she did go to the doctor. The doctor did put her on medication, and then she didn't see anything anymore. And that was, there were no demons there on this one. She just, needed more. She needed to go to the doctor, and that's where I talk about people with vicarious liability and everything. You go in, and, if you could see this, and then the shit just feeds it and gets worse and worse, somebody might turn around and sue you.
Right.
Well, did you find, too, that, because I know Kim and I did you have more people do you have more people contact you every time a paranormal activity movie comes out?
It's pretty much, I think probably when the movie Paranormal Activity comes out, right. that one above all of them, yeah. They do because they watch that like it's real.
Yeah.
And
then all of a sudden everything starts happening in bedrooms, and it follows the script. It's almost silly.
It's under the bed or in the closet.
Yeah.
We had one that we did where they actually, Dad had his imaginary friend who probably isn't imaginary, but he'd had since childhood, and every house he goes to, he invites whatever this is, to come with him. So this is something that he's had around his entire life. It's no big deal. And then he got married. He had a bunch of kids. He got married, and after she moved in with her kids, all of a sudden things started happening. They thought that, like, one of the kids heard, like, Get Out, and different things like this. But we go over there because there's 7 children involved. 7 kids.
Ouch.
So,
wow.
7 kids. So, one group, we had 2 of us that interviewed the parents, and because of my background, I've spent 20 years investigating crimes against children. I took the kids, and so did Sam Epps, another one of our members who had also been in law enforcement at one time. We interviewed the kids, and we had to do them all together in a room, which was unique and interesting because they were all young. The oldest one was, I think, 10, and went from 10 down to probably about 3 years old. And to have 7 kids upstairs with us confined for, an hour and a half or so, and to be able to talk to them and to not get bored was quite the feat. But
Yeah.
there's not really anything going on over there. So his kids, it's something that they would hear footsteps all the time. And that may very well be something like that going on with him because they'd heard it all their life. But as far as it intensifying, it wasn't because another kid, his bed's on the floor, his mattress, and he starts talking about, and they let their children, that's the other thing, they let their children watch all of the paranormal shows, all of the scary shows. They're watching them all, and they're, 10, 6, 7, 8, 5, shows that they really shouldn't be watching. And you got one, he starts demonstrating how something grabs him by his ankle, pulling him off the bed, just like I think that was like that in paranormal activity. They'd all seen that stuff. So it was just the kids with active imagination. But one fascinating thing in this house was they had inside the closet, they had a hose that was blocked up by a board that was nailed into the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And it had never, he moved in and she moved in, it had never been opened, ever. So they opened that while we were there. And it's like there was no telling what we were going to find because it was definitely an opening where people could go in and do things. And this was an old farmhouse. It actually had 2 areas you could go in, and their rooms were big enough for 2 more rooms upstairs. They, once you crawled into them, they were rather large. And in this one, we found a large handmade wooden box that was huge. And it was cleaner than a whistle on the inside of that box, but it was heavy. But we didn't know what we were going to find. We were hoping that maybe, find something kind of really cool and unique when it was when they cracked the wood, the wood off of the wall so we could get in there. But there wasn't. But that's the other thing is when you get the family with the kids, and when the kids would move faster on things. None of it was real, and they had their little kids watching all these movies, so everything was imagination.
Yeah, that's, and unfortunately we keep running into more and more of that,
Right.
And it's just it's. I don't want to tell people how to raise their kids, but my goodness, there's people being allowed to do stuff that I didn't do till I was 10 or 11 or 12 years old. And even then, I was sneaking it. But I was 12. I wasn't 6.
Well, last week, didn't we have like an 8-year-old in the chat room looking for boys?
Well,
right. And there's been a couple times with some of the calls, and I don't want to make people afraid to call us, but with the way the parents are on the phone, like I said, we always keep an open mind when we go there. I'm wondering, are we going to have to call CPS when we get to this house?
right.
Because it like the one with the apartment, she sounded like, I can't even explain how she sounded on the phone. And we just got there and go, okay, we don't have to get it. But, we've never had to, we have never come close to doing it. But that is a thought when people go into these homes, that they need to be aware of, too, that if there is something going on that should be reported, they need to report it. And they're required to by law as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully that never comes up.
Yeah.
But that is something that we're aware of when we go into place.
Well, Martha, that's a very valid point because there are a lot of newer teens out there that the only thing that they know is what they've seen on TV. So they think that it's easy to just walk into somebody's house, take a few pictures, take a little video, do an EVP session or 3, and they think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Right.
And they don't understand that there's a lot more into it. And if, like you said, if you see somebody endangering a child or endangering a senior citizen or even endangering either animals or mistreating animals, you have a moral responsibility to report that. And in some states, you have a legal responsibility to report that.
Exactly. In Texas, you do.
See?
And I don't want to be the one that didn't, and you have a child that ends up dead or something.
Right.
But like I said, we've never had to, but we have. That thought has crossed our mind in the past.
Oh yeah.
We just, we've just, held our breath till we got there, and then find out, oh, okay, it's not as, it's not as bad as we thought.
Right.
But there's, sometimes it may be something that they say there's something going on with a child, and the child maybe has problems and needs maybe some counseling or something, and there is something wrong with the child, but it's mental, and that's, or and it can be adults even, and that's one of the things that we do is we don't go in, because some of them, like you're talking about the new groups, they go in, they get their stuff, they leave. And a lot of times they never even contact the family again to let them know what they found.
Right.
Or if they do, that's the end of it. We have what I guess we call aftercare, and we've always done this, is they can continue to call us if something's going on, but I will pick up the phone and I will call or text, depending on who it is, the client for maybe a year, maybe not every month, but every 3 months or so, how's it going? Do you have any problems? Do you have any questions? And if we get there and we find some things going on, the aftercare is getting them connected with what they need. Right. If they need a house blessing, and we don't do those or something, and we find someone who can, if they, whatever they need to find some closure or something, we try to get that for them or lead them into that, into that direction, so that they, because that's what they want. They want us answered. They want to know what to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Martha, as much as I hate to say this, we've run through an hour already, and I can't believe it. And I can't believe it. You're going to have to come back. That's what that means.
Well, I'll be glad to.
Awesome. Where can people find you? I know I got the link from your Facebook page for EastTexasHaunted.com. That's still your group page, correct?
That's our group page. They can get a hold of us there on Facebook. We're just facebook.com / East Texas Paranormal. They can find us there. They can find me on examiner.com as Dallas Paranormal. And then I'm going to be at I'm going to be in September 21 and 21st up at Paranormal Times Magazine's Paracon in El Reno, Oklahoma. And then I think it's October 4th through 6th up in Marshall at the East Texas Ghost Conference. I'll be up there. I'm speaking at both of those.
We'll be there for that.
Yeah, good. And then in November, Jody has the History, Haunts, and Legends, and I'll be speaking up at that one as well.
Are you going to go to Shreveport?
I may be going up there. We're not going to have a booth or anything, but I may be there.
Okay, well, come
It depends.
Come say hi to us.
Oh, I will. If Maria comes up, Maria Santos, who's with our group, if Maria gets up this way, then I'll go with her up there.
Okay.
Well,
and hang out.
And Martha said that she would come by our shop once we get it open on her way
That's right.
to her.
Oh, I know. Well, you better hurry up, because I will. When I go up to our property in Gilmer, I'll stop by Glaywater.
They are definitely, we close Monday?
Yeah, we close on the building Monday, and we're shooting for the 4th of July, whether or not we actually make it, but that's our goal
I'll
now.
I'll have a few whip marks and stuff from the cracking of the whip behind me for the next month or so.
Well, crack it hard.
Yeah, you know she will.
I want to hear it from here.
But I kind of like it. So be sure, and if you can get a hold of Martha on our websites.
Right, and then our email address is etxparanormal@gmail.com.
Okay,
And she also has Facebook.
Facebook. You on Twitter?
Right. Yeah, I'm on Twitter as Mardek, Mardeck.
Okay.
We do have a Twitter with a group. I can't remember what we call ourselves. It may be ETX Paranormal.
Yeah.
I jump on the Mardek one more often.
Yeah.
And then, they can find me as Martha Hazard Decker on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
And everything has our contact information on there, whether it's phone call or for email, it's all there.
Well, Martha, once again, thank you for joining us. Everybody come back in about 2 hours for the Alchemical Artisans Hour. They're going to be having on Carolyn Moss. She's a singer, playing some of her music. She's also into green living and a whole bunch of other stuff. She was on the Alchemical Artisans Hour on Thursday. So tune in every night of the week. We got live shows. Got a lot of exciting stuff coming to PEN, so just stay tuned.
And Monday on Just Saying, we have Jen DeVilla.
And if it doesn't fall through, I got to get confirmation. Next Thursday on Yakking with the Yeti, I'm going to be talking with Ben and Stacy Dixon.
Ooh.
Ew, I'm hoity-toity.
But hopefully we will see Martha in Shreveport. If not, we will absolutely see her in Marshall.
That's right. So, once again, if you're going out and researching this weekend, be careful, stay protected,
Have permission.
and document what you do. And we'll see you later.
Night.